London accelerates its military planning to prepare for a peacekeeping mission in Ukraine once a ceasefire agreement is reached, according to the UK government. The UK Special Forces have been placed on high alert for deployment, reports the iPaper.
Special Forces units were told to prepare for mobilization to Ukraine by military planners tasked with readying forces by the Cabinet Office, according to two military sources with knowledge of the directive. The Command Centre for UK Military Planning, the Permanent Joint Headquarters, was sent directives last week to begin the process for the deployment of personnel and resources. From the iPaper publication.
Without providing Ukraine with security guarantees, Putin will violate any peace agreement, believes Keir Starmer. This is why London and its allies are moving from political support to Kyiv to military planning.
It is vitally important that we do that work because we know one thing for certain, which is a deal without anything behind it is something that Putin will breach. We know that because it's happened before. And I'm absolutely clear in my mind it will happen again. Therefore, what you're doing here today is vitally important to peace and security across Europe and for our NATO allies and, of course, crucially, for the United Kingdom.
The UK government has also assured that it is prepared to deter potential Russian aggression. In 2024, London announced large investments in its nuclear program. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak stated that more than £760 million will be invested in the sector by 2030. One component of the UK's nuclear deterrents is the Trident program. One submarine of this project can carry up to 16 ballistic missiles, each armed with 12 warheads. This means a single vessel could potentially deliver 192 warheads in one salvo.
One Trident submarine has the ability to incinerate 40 Russian cities very quickly. That is a lot of food for thought for Putin, and that should make any world leader fearful. Putin knows what Trident submarines can deliver, and that is something he has to factor into all of his calculations when he is provoking the West. Russian air defense systems are not that great. Russia is also the largest country on Earth. It is impossible to defend against a ballistic missile attack. Chris Perry, retired Rear Admiral of the Royal Navy, in an interview with The Telegraph.
The number of countries willing to send peacekeepers to Ukraine is known, but the start of the mission depends on the progress of peace negotiations, according to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine. Moreover, the list of willing countries could expand. For instance, on March 21st, during a press conference in Kyiv, the president of the Czech Republic stated that his country is ready to consider such a scenario.
Regarding the coalition of the willing, I personally see it as a group of countries that are ready to work, not just talk. That's why I'm talking about concrete results. There was a meeting at the level of commanders-in-chief in London, and its main goal was to discuss the modalities of this potential military presence in Ukraine. The Czech Republic is ready to be part of these negotiations. And if there is a final decision to create such forces, I truly believe the Czech Republic will become part of them.
It is known that the center of the peacekeeping contingent will consist of troops from the United Kingdom and France. Allies are still discussing the details of the future mission.
The rules of engagement and the rules of self-defense and what to do if the peacekeeping or stabilization mission is in any way attacked, these are some of the most vexing and difficult questions to grapple with. One would assume they'd also be part of any negotiation that gives this kind of force a mandate. There has been a heightened sense of awareness that NATO itself may have to be defended ever since the big invasion began in February 2022. Now, of course, operational preparation is mission specific, but I think very generically speaking, Western European troops are actually now quite well practiced in deploying in numbers to Eastern Europe.
At the same time, Ukraine does not view the United Nations-led peacekeeping mission as an alternative to the plans of European partners and security guarantees, stated the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky. According to Zelensky, the UN will not be able to protect Ukraine from occupation or Putin's desire to reignite the war. Reported by Alexandra Zaslavets, Larissa Petruk, UATV News. The peacekeeping contingent in Ukraine will include aviation and naval forces, according to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine. Simply having a ground presence in Ukraine is not enough, stated the spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, Georgy Tikhy.
We see a significant number of countries expressing their readiness to participate in this. We already have a list of countries that have shown this willingness, even officially signaling their readiness to join such a coalition, such a military contingent. It's important not only to have a ground presence, but also air and naval components. Presence at sea is not just about protecting Ukraine and Ukraine's economy, but also global food security.
Putin has no right to prevent Europe from participating in a peacekeeping mission in Ukraine, believes Secretary of State for Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Affairs of the UK, David Lammy, and the EU will not give him a veto. The peacekeeping contingent should become part of the security guarantees for Kyiv. According to the Foreign Minister of the UK, Putin will break any ceasefire agreement if it is not backed by solid security guarantees.
At stake is not only the future of Ukraine, but the collective security of our continent and therefore Britain's direct national interests. And the UK is prepared, of course, to consider committing British troops on the ground.
On March 20th, the Prime Minister of the UK, Keir Starmer, held a closed-door meeting with the military leadership of several countries. The main focus of the talks was the details of the coalition of the willing plan to support Ukraine. According to Reuters, around 30 mostly European countries have already offered to contribute troops, aircraft, ships or funding to the peacekeeping mission in Ukraine.
But it is vitally important that we do that work because we know one thing for certain, which is a deal without anything behind it is something that Putin will breach. We know that because it's happened before, and I'm absolutely clear in my mind it will happen again.
Among the countries willing to send troops to Ukraine is Lithuania. Vilnius will take part in the peacekeeping mission once a ceasefire agreement is reached, President Gitanas Nausėda assured.
And my country is ready to provide the necessary support, and we are talking about very concrete numbers of our military troops, but there should be commitment of all countries participating in this coalition to provide this support. So far, Russia is imitating the negotiations, talking about possible peace and about possible ceasefire, but they are not even ready to keep the ceasefire as promised, not to attack, not to strike the critical infrastructure.
An alternative plan was proposed by President of France Emmanuel Macron, according to The Telegraph. It concerns a peacekeeping mission led by the United Nations. However, Ukraine does not see this plan as an alternative, stated President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky.
The UN will have no mandate to protect Ukraine if Putin brings war to us again. The question is whether such a mandate will exist for the contingent. This question remains unanswered. But undoubtedly, when there are clear military forces, air defense, ships, planes, and a serious army, with real intelligence from our partners in Ukraine, it is certainly very dangerous for the Russians to go against such infrastructure.
The next coalition of the willing meeting is scheduled for March 27 in Paris, announced President of France Emmanuel Macron. President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky will attend. According to Macron, the meeting will focus on the participants' commitments to providing long-term support to Kyiv. Reported by Alexandra Zaslavets, Kristina Dombrovska, UATV News.